Okay, well, I can't explain why you can't see me, but because my camera's on, the green light's on, showing my camera's on, but at least it explains the blank expression on my face. Get it? All right, fine. I want to
Haha.
thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, let me share screen here. Okay, everybody can see, I hope, the share screen.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to show you, after realizing what programs you all wanted to do, I loaded a few page down assignments. I loaded them all in here. So how I determine when you would present is the number of members in your group. So the more in your group, the sooner you present, because you can break the work down among yourselves. So WIC and SNAP will be presenting then. And if you click on it, it tells you who the participants are. So Anna, Sierra, and Ty. Uh, did I get everybody? I think I did. Um, you all going to be getting together, present on WIC. And also on the 5th will be SNAP with 4 of you presenting, Allison, Shay, Gabby, and Tia. So you need to all get together at some point and get that together. On the 12th will be National School Lunch Program and Medicare. Again, who's participating? That'd be Taisha and Melissa on National School Lunch Program. Medicare, it's going to be Crystal and Jade. It's so exciting. And on the 19th of April, 10th will be Isabel and Valerie. And the person who's working alone on Head Start, God bless you, Cassandra. You get to go last. Everybody got the picture? So when it's time to, you'll notice assignment is due at 7 o'clock that night. So the idea would be before class starts that you load your presentation in there. In other words, your write-up. And then when the class starts, I'll direct the activities and we'll read your presentation and then ask you questions on it. After which the students will score you, how they thought you did. Based on what, Maynard? Thank you for asking. You will put all your scores in here. Please indicate your score for the oral presentation of the program according to the following criteria. Accurate, complete, and informative responses to the questions on the written handout will be 70% of the total grade. So just indicate the name of the program like WIC and what score you would give it based on accurate, complete, and informative responses, 1 to 10. The second thing you'll grade on is evidence of solid understanding of the program, responding to students' questions, which we'll follow up. And that'll be 1 to 10. So don't worry about, do we do the 70%? No, just enter your scores. I will do the math and computing the total score. So each week you just indicate the program and your score for each one in the Dropbox, and I will take it from there. Any questions? Any answers? Okay, well, moving right along. If you guys notice somebody's waiting to come in, let me know, because I got to admit them from the waiting room. So I'll be focused on this. We're going to go back to our framework, and I'll take you through the rest of the framework tonight so you're good to go. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I sent all of you an email around 6 o'clock, and in it is the Word doc for the framework. So all you have to do is fill in the blanks in the Word doc. You don't have to restate the subtitle. And so, for example, you don't have to put in issues dealt with by policy program. All this is already in the Word doc. All you got to do is fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Make it easy for you. Everybody got it? So check your email. It's in there. I send it to the entire class. If for some reason you didn't get it, or let me know. I'll resend it to you. Okay, when last we stopped, we were at VII, or for those of you who know Roman numerals, 7. Okay, it's means of generating revenue for the program. I'm going to come back to this. And the reason why is because I'm going to do an entire couple of nights presentation on taxes, because I think it's real important that you understand how taxes work. When I do, I will come back to this section. You got plenty of other things to do in the meantime on the framework, so I don't think I'll be holding you up. Okay, so again, this is all under the heading of how the program is financed. Matching funds arrangement. This may or may not be true of your program. Are there any federal, state, or state local match money? That doesn't mean do you have money to buy matches? No, 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 no. This means does the government put up, well, I'll give you an example. For every $3 the federal government provides, the state must provide $1 to fund the program. So if there is any match money, you need to describe the ratio or funding proportions. Now, why would the federal government require the state to provide match monies? Anybody know the logic behind that? We're here to listen, Maynard, not talk. Okay. The reason why is, let's suppose I'm a group therapist and you're all joining my group to get some help with professors putting you to sleep. And so we're going to have a 4-week session. But I'm going to tell you that at the first session, you got to come up with $100. And at the end of the 4 weeks, I'll give you back your $100. Why would I do that?
Is it to make sure that like you're not like scheduling appointments and making time for them not to follow through?
Well, yeah, if I understand, it's to make sure you show up. You know, now in the meantime, I'll take your $100 and make money on it and give you only 100 back. I mean, never strike that. Yeah, it's to guarantee that you show up. Okay, so if the government, the federal government says to the state, okay, listen, whatever you need, we'll just give you. There's really no accountability in the part of the states. It's like saying, here's a blank check, spend all you want, and we'll just keep covering it for you. So for those programs where there are matching funds involved, it tries to hold the state somewhat accountable fiscally to make sure that they're being fiscally responsible in how the money's being spent. So, yeah, you know, we'll give you $3, but you guys got to put up $1 first, and then we'll give you $3 for every $1. Sometimes you'll see this with donations to agencies, especially our agents to charitable programs. I notice this especially around the end of the year where there's matching donation challenges. So for example, let's say we have a rich donor, for every dollar you, the people, contribute, this rich donor is going to match it with $3 more or match it with the equal amount. So all of a sudden you've tripled the amount effectively you've made as a donation to Feeding America or whatever group it is. So it's the same concept, you know, it creates accountability. And in the case of donations, it spurs more donations because you realize every dollar I give is going to be effectively tripled by the rich donor. Everybody got it? So again, this may or may not apply to your program. So check it out, see if it does. Okay, cash flow from government to recipient. This is very similar to what you did here, where I said administrative arrangements. Good, my internet connection is unstable. Well, I'm not very stable either, so it seems to work out. Okay, I want you to do the same thing you did in that one. I want you to start with the U.S. Department of Treasury, because that's relevant.
Maynard, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Great. It's that unstable connection. Can you hear me now? Oh, this is special. Hello, can anybody hear me? All right, that's great. Can you hear me now? Everything is going great tonight. Okay, let's try something else. Can you hear me now? Stupid, unstable, correct. Hang on.
Nope.
Still can't hear me. Great. Okay. So I'm going to continue because I'm recording this anyway. And the reason why I want to keep continuing is because I want you to at least be able to access the recording once I have it set up, so that you can continue to work on the framework. Now, if at any point anybody can hear me, let me know, because I'm going to keep on talking. If, on the other hand, you want to go home for the night, I understand, and I'll just continue to record this for your benefit, and you can watch it once I get it done tomorrow. Here's the only minor problem. If the ice storm hits, where I live, I often lose electricity. So it may not be exactly tomorrow that you see the recording or have it available for you. So from this
Maynard,
moment,
we can't hear you.
okay, did you read my chat?
I don't see anything from you in the chat, Maynard.
I don't see anything either, but I can hear you a little bit better now.
Yeah, I heard what you just said better.
Oh, what the?
I heard that.
Good, it's good. I didn't curse now, did I? I was very close.
Yeah, I can hear
Okay, well, here's the deal. What I was saying in the chat, and I don't know, it's indicating that I'm chatting, but you're not hearing, is if we lose the connection again, I'm going to keep on going through this. And the reason why is I want to at least record this so that you guys can see the rest of what you have to do on the framework. So if we get interrupted again and you don't want to hang in there, I get it. I will record it. What happens with this is I have to then send it to YouTube, and then YouTube has to process it. It usually takes a few hours. Now, if I lose electricity, which typically happens during ice storms where I live, it may be a couple of days before I'm up and running again that I can send this to you. And then you will at least have the recording to watch to figure out what else to do with the rest of the framework. Does that sound like a plan?
Got it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to continue going. I'll go back to screen share. Okay, so I think where we got interrupted was when I was at this point. And all you have to do is outline each step. So you don't have to describe anything. So all the money for all the federal programs that you're covering comes from the United States Department of Treasury. Now, I'm just suggesting, but it's going to be different for each one of your programs as to where does the money go next. Now, why do you need to know how the money flows? He asks, meaning you can respond. Or you can claim, we didn't hear that, Maynard. Okay, well, the reason why is for the same reason you need to know the administrative hierarchy, in case you got to find out where's the money for my client? How do I trace back where the money's supposed to go? So this is just a suggestion. It starts with the Department of Treasury. Now, does the money go to the department that administers your program and then they disperse the funds? And if so, how does it work from there? Does it go directly to the state Department of Welfare, for example, and then down to the local agency, or what? So you need to trace the money flow here. That's all. Just could be 3 or 4 or 5 different levels until it gets down to the local agency. And from the local agency, of course, it goes to the recipient. Okay, that's program financing. Now, accountability, which is huge these days. Better on Zoom, can't see the whole damn thing. What methods are in place to prevent program abuse and or ineligible people from receiving benefits? I don't specifically mean here, I know for many of you it's a means tested program. I mean, I got that. But all of these programs have entire programs, like processes in place to prevent program abuse. So it may be that they monitor, for example, all the WIC agencies, or that the state does, but they have monitoring systems. That's what I want you to describe here. What are the monitoring systems to make sure that there isn't program abuse? For those of you doing Medicare, there's very little abuse on the recipient end. Where all the abuse takes place is on the provider end. It's like a cottage industry where there are some providers who are scamming Medicare funds, and they even have a storefront. And as soon as you go to the storefront, voila, there's nobody there. They closed shop down and moved out of town quickly before anybody could catch up with them. But there are processes to monitor this fraud. That's what I want you to describe here. Not just, hey, they got a means test in place. What processes does your program put into place to monitor fraud or abuse? Okay, this is a separate question, but the same thing that I'm looking for is what processes, what programs, how do they evaluate the program's overall effectiveness? Now, one way in which the program's overall effectiveness is monitored is, let's suppose Senator so-and-so has a resolution or introduces a bill to change something in the program. Then all of a sudden, a program that most of the senators haven't even looked at in a while, all of a sudden gets a lot of attention. And so now they're starting to examine it with a fine tooth comb, whereas the previous 3 years, nobody really looked at it. So in the meantime, there may be systems in place to make sure it's effective. And when I say effective, I mean, is it meeting its intended purposes? If I was to describe your work as a professional social worker, I'd want to look at your effectiveness, meaning, do you carry out what you intend to do with the clients, what your professional charge is with the clients? Are you effective in carrying that out? So that's what I'm looking at here. Are there programs in place to make sure WIC's doing what's intended to do, whether Medicare is doing what it's intended to do? Everybody got it? Okay. Up until now, all you've been doing is describing the program. Here's the evaluative piece. And so this section is all about evaluating the program. So you're going to have to put on your thinking caps for this part. So I don't mean you can't find some of the, you obviously have to do research on it, but you have to think about this. This first one, you're not going to find it in a book. You're going to have to think about it. So it's high or low degree of equity. Equity is another word for equal. Okay, so you're going to look at horizontal and vertical equity. Now, if you could see me, which you can't, I would say, now, which way does her horizontal go? And then the whole class moves their hand back and forth, left to right, like on the horizon, right? And vertical, which way does that go? And everybody moves their hand up and down. That's exactly right. Okay, so horizontal equity. Now think about this as a logical thing you'd want to know about the program. Do families or individuals, depending on your program, whichever is the best recipient unit, with the same income and composition. By composition, I mean same number of family members, everything's the same. There's nothing different about this family, receive the same benefits within the state. So in other words, does a family in Pittsburgh with the same income, same situation, same house value, you name it, it's exactly the same as a family in Philadelphia, do they receive exactly the same benefits within your state, within the state? Now, why would I ask that question? Because it would be a good determination of whether or not it's equitable. Is it fair? That it would seem only right that families with exactly the same need in different parts of the state should receive the same benefits. Everybody got that so far? Any questions? Okay, then you're going to describe why. So you're going to look at the program and figure out the logic behind the program. Yes, the way this works is it absolutely is set up that way that individuals and families within the state who are in the exact same situation will receive the same benefits. Describe why that is the case. Now, is it also true throughout the nation? Okay, so here's a big hint, and you all know this. It's not the same throughout the nation for TANF. Each state has its own program. So clearly throughout the nation, it's not going to be the same. So those of you doing TANF, I mentioned, that's why I said earlier when I said describe the benefits within the state, what does a recipient family receive in Pennsylvania? But then give me the high range. What state do they receive the most TANF benefits? Would the family of 4 receive in this state? And in what state do they receive the lowest? So for those of you doing TANF, I need 3 statistics there. Pennsylvania, what the family of 4 receives, what a family of 4 receives, or whatever your recipient unit is in the state where they get the most benefits, and in the state with least. That way you've described the range. So for some of your programs, there is no difference. There's going to be no difference whether it's within Pennsylvania or it's within Kentucky. It's going to be the same. So then you could also say, so there, again, describe why. It's not unreasonable that TANF would have different benefit levels in different states. That's how the program's set up. It's set up within federal guidelines, but each state can determine its own program within those federal guidelines. For some of the other programs, that might be problematic. It's a federal program and there's not supposed to be state by state variation. Everybody got the idea? Okay. You don't have to take notes because you can listen to me babble again because you'll have the recording available to you. By the way, the recording of last week is in this section of the assignments. Okay, vertical, up and down. Do families, individuals of differing income and composition receive proportionally different benefits within the state? Okay, so let's suppose I got a family in Pittsburgh with 2 kids with the exact same income and all their other circumstances are the same as a family in Philly with 4 kids. So they have different composition. One family has the same income as the other family, but one has 2 kids, one has 4 kids. With those programs that address children, it would only make sense that the more kids you have, the more benefits you should get, like from SNAP. Yes, you see, that would only be fair. That would only be equitable. Okay, so describe why. Is it also true throughout the nation? Is it true throughout the nation that a family in Pennsylvania with 2 kids is going to receive less benefits than a family with exactly the same income is going to receive in Kentucky with 4 kids? No, they'd say, well, no, they should be receiving more benefits in Kentucky with 4 kids in a nationally run program like SNAP, because that's how it's set up. The more the need, the greater the need, the greater the benefits. Okay, I'm getting the internet connection is unstable again. Okay, so you just need to think through and answer each part of the question. So there's 2 parts to this question, 2 parts to that question. Adequacy, again, we're talking about evaluating the program. How adequate are the benefits in reaching the recipient population? The question here is, what percent of the eligible population is actually enrolled in the program? Okay, we flashed off and on. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, this is a real special. I blame it on the ice storm. Let's share again. Okay, so I'm not talking about, well, there's 330 million people in the United States and there are X number of recipients in my program. Therefore, the percentage is no, 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 no. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you of the people who are eligible for your program, the people who meet the eligibility requirements, what percent are actually enrolled in the program? Now, if you think about this in analyzing a program, this is a critical question, because if you find out that of the eligible population for your program, only 70% are actually enrolled, that's a problem. That means 30% of the people who are eligible for this program aren't even enrolled in it, which defeats a major part of the intent of the program on behalf of Congress, that everybody who's eligible for the program is receiving benefits for the program. And so the second part of the question, after you tell me what percent that is, which you'll have to do some research on, if not everyone, why not? You know, are they discouraged by the means test? Don't they know that they're eligible? Do we need to do more outreach? So for example, when you go to a lot of agencies, you'll see like there's all kinds of brochures indicating you may be eligible for WIC, you may be eligible for SNAP, because some people, that's called outreach, because some people don't realize they are eligible, which is a big problem. So if there's 30% not enrolled in the program who are eligible for it, you got to figure out why that's the case. And that may be a program recommendation you want to make. Okay, we got to do more of this to make sure the entire eligible population is enrolled. Okay, is the program adequate in terms of benefit levels? So there's 2-part question here, 2 answers to this. First of all, great. Okay, y'all still there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. The whole thing disappeared on my screen. Hey, you can now see me.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you seem resigned to your fate. Yes, we can see you all right, Maynard, and we're not happy about it. Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's go back. I'll share screen again. Are you seeing the framework?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, when last I was interrupted, we were at of benefit levels. Are benefits sufficient to meet programs' overall objectives? Okay, if you read the enacting legislation for SNAP, its intent was to make sure that everybody has an affordable and nutritious diet. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the main point. So in the question of SNAP, are the benefits provided through the program enough to meet the program's objectives? Do the benefits of SNAP, are they sufficient enough that everybody who's enrolled in SNAP has a sufficient and nutritious diet? That's part one. Part two is, are they sufficient to meet recipient needs? Now, here's my point. It's entirely possible that the benefits are set up in a way, well, yeah, we meet the program's objectives because the program's objectives were perhaps a tad limited, but they're not enough to really meet recipient needs. Now, I know that nobody expects that SNAP is going to meet everybody's entire food needs because the idea is that people are not solely dependent on SNAP. But the question becomes, are they sufficient to meet recipient needs? So it's two parts to the question. Are the benefits sufficient to meet the program's overall objectives? Are they sufficient to meet the recipient needs? If not, why? Be sure to respond to both parts of the question. Okay, and just interrupt me if you have questions. Okay, next, is there social stigma on recipients? How significant is this factor in regard to your program? Explain your reasoning. Let me give you an example. How much stigma is associated with being a Social Security recipient, do you think? Anybody can jump in.
None.
Yeah, none. Thank you. Why? People paid into it. That I better get my damn money. I've been paying into it my entire working life. So nobody looks like, oh my God, are you receiving Social Security? How shameful. No, no, no. There's no stigma at all associated to it. But for some of your programs, there is. And so you need to have a discussion about that. Maybe that's one of the reasons why not everybody in your program is enrolled in the program. Okay, what are we going to evaluate next? Administrative efficiency, cost effectiveness. Are administrative costs an unusually high percentage of the total program costs? Okay, this is why it's significant. Let's suppose $100 million is allocated by the federal government for your particular program, but 20% of it goes to administering the program. They don't say, well, then we'll add another 20 million to it. That means $20 million of that 100 million does not go to the recipients. It's instead going to administer the program. We'll talk about this more when we get to taxes, but the IRS, they do not audit too many of our tax returns. And the reason why is because every time they want to audit a tax return, they got to hire somebody in the IRS to do the audits. So the more auditors, the more it costs the IRS. So the IRS has determined that, all right, we're going to get ripped off by some people with their tax returns, but it's still not worth it to hire more people to limit the amount of cheating. The law of diminishing returns applies. And so people who are really concerned about welfare cheating, they go, oh my God, they ought to hire more people to take care of. Okay, so you're going to pay people their salaries, their benefits. Are you going to get enough in return by hiring another 1,000 people to monitor welfare recipients? Are you going to get enough in return in savings to justify that expenditure? So All I'm asking you to do is look at what the administrative costs for your program are and consider approximately 10 to 15% to be a reasonable administrative cost in responding to this section. I got that from talking to an economics professor who said, yeah, that's kind of the rule of thumb in looking at business in general, 10 to 15% for administration is reasonable. So first of all, find out what the total administrative costs are. And then if it's within this range or above this range, then explain why they're either too high or why they're either high or acceptably low. Here's the thing. I know as I'm going through this, you're probably thinking, how the hell am I going to find all this? You will find it. And the amazing thing is when you're doing these oral presentations, you're going to have like an out-of-body experience. You're going to be, who the hell is this who knows all about this program? It's just like taking the research sequence with Dr. B. At the end of it all, you're presenting your research, you're going, oh my God, I actually know what the hell I'm talking about. Yes, you will. And if you can do this for this program, you now know how to analyze a program, which gives you the tools you need in the future to advocate on behalf of your clients, if necessary, by advocating for legislative change in a program. Okay, in terms of administrative efficiency, next question, impact of administrative procedures on recipients. Are recipients discouraged by too much red tape? Well, if you want to get in this program, there's only a 15-page form you have to fill out and reveal everything about your life. Does it discourage people? Is that another reason why some people who are eligible are not enrolled in the program? Or is the red tape so extensive that some people are unable to receive proper benefits from it? That's part one of the program, of the question. The flip side of it is the program too loosely run, like I just mentioned about the IRS. Are there too many cheaters? So I want you to tell me, what is the fraudulent rate for this program? It's knowable. You can find it. I found easily the overall fraudulent rate for welfare as a whole here in the United States, because I always use it to make a point with people who are freaked about welfare cheaters. And I point out the amount of welfare cheaters, that amount of money is dwarfed by the amount of money the rich don't pay on their taxes because they found ways to escape paying taxes illegally. I don't mean legal ways, illegal ways, where they're cheating the system. So be sure to answer both parts of the question and include the fraudulent rate. So the one's just the flip side of the other. Okay, impact the recipients of program obligations. Don't get dizzy, but I'm going to go back to the beginning. This was at the beginning of the program analysis. It was program eligibility, and I asked you, what obligations must recipients meet in order to receive the benefits? And my point was that these programs are not unilateral. There's something you got to do to get it. There is no program you guys are looking at where there isn't something you have to do as a recipient in order to get the full benefits of the program. So bearing that in mind, what you listed there, that was a rush. Okay, we're going to go back to here. Refers to the obligations detailed in section 4D of the framework. What is the impact of these obligations on recipients' freedom of choice, rights, opportunities? So for example, I already gave you one. If you have to complete a means test, what does that imply? Well, it means I have to reveal my financial privacy. Now, there's no constitutional amendment that says you have a right to financial privacy, but it's a presumed right. We don't go around asking each other people's salaries, so people kind of keep that to themselves. I think that's a problem. I think if there was financial transparency throughout American society, it would change everything, but that's a discussion for another day. Anyway, so yes, they have to reveal their personal finances. So it sacrifices or compromises people's presumed freedom of financial privacy. Okay, are there any other things that are compromised in terms of obligations for your particular program that you listed in 4D? The next question is, are these obligations having their intended effect in getting recipients jobs? So for example, if you sign up for employment insurance or unemployment insurance, you have to be actively seeking a job. Are recipients actually getting a job for that? So that's the give up. What do you have to do? You have to seek a job. That's the obligation. Is it working? Are they actually getting jobs from this? Is the means test effective in preventing program abuse? So be sure to answer both parts of the question. Further consequences of the program is just a throw in here. I will not take points off if you don't come up with anything, but there may be something you want to put in here. I did, actually, I did 5 of these when I was in graduate school at the same time because I had to. My assignment for my graduate school field placement was I was their so-called policy expert, and I had to do a couple of things. One is I had to set up an annual process whereby the people in the Settlement House organization representing 100,000 poor people in St. Louis could regularly be in touch with the senators and congressmen in Washington. So I had to set up a process whereby that would take place. And the second thing is they needed to know that the key programs that were impacting the citizenry, what was the problems with them, what would they do, what was going right, what was going wrong, so that when they speak to the legislators, they could talk about these programs. So I was doing 5 of these at the same time. And at that time, there were no online resources. So boy, I was a busy kid. Anyway, so this is just a throw in. So for SNAP, I personally, I've always been about organic foods, and I'm not amazed. I'm satisfied that their time has finally come and they're actually becoming reasonably affordable. So I indicated that, and that SNAP doesn't require or doesn't necessarily make accessible to people organic foods are required. So that has an impact environmentally, it has an impact on the health of the recipients and so forth. So I just threw that one in, but maybe there's something we haven't thought about. One of the things that social work is getting more and more involved in is the ecological impacts of society and fighting for programs for climate change and so forth has been a big push for social work for the last 5 or so years. Okay, so now you did your entire analysis, you're ready to make some conclusions. So first, what are the overall gains for the recipient population? To what extent has the recipient population situation been improved as a result of this program? For example, what percentage have risen out of poverty as a result? Or do people receive benefits and services through the program they would not have obtained otherwise? Clearly, that's true of all your programs. Or is there a greater measure of economic security gained through the program? What I want you to do is provide 3 different research evidences to support your responses to this section, each indicating a different gain. So you can't provide me 3 saying all 3 are health gains. What are 3 ways in which your program has improved the lives of the recipient population? So I want you to find research and provide 3 different research evidences. We in social work are all about evidence-based practice. So provide research here. Because again, if you're presenting this to a senator or a congressperson, they want to see evidence, not just, I'm sure it's helping people. Okay, now here's another perk for a potential senator or congressman that you're introducing this to. What impact has the program had on the general population? Has it had a positive impact on the values, beliefs, ideologies of the general population, on the overall quality of life? Again, see if you can find some research on this. I'm not demanding you provide 3 different, but think it through. How has it impacted? For example, as a result of this program, has it resulted in more jobs for the general population? What specific jobs has it provided, or has as a result of this program occurred? Let me give you an example. When we were talking about Medicare, and we were talking about social services, I indicated that it's a federal requirement that anybody who receives Medicare that goes to a hospital must be seen by a social worker. So Medicare was great for the social work profession because it created more jobs for social workers. So that's a little too narrow for this response, but that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. How has this program benefited the general population? So put your thinking cap on. We're getting near the end. Redistributive effects. I'm going to come back to this one again when we go over taxes. But redistribution, that's the name of this course, poverty and income redistribution. So basically, in an ideal world, we realize that capitalism creates inequality. And so here in this country, got the top 20% controlling almost 90% of the wealth and almost half all annual income, which is ridiculously disproportionate. So as a result, how can we fix that? Well, in a perfect world, we have a tax system that heavily taxes the wealthy, and then we take the benefits from that and through the welfare system redistribute that income to the poor to reduce the inequality. It is extremely effective in Western Europe. Because of their extensive and generous welfare programs, they have far less income inequality than we have here in the United States. So that's what we're going to go for. So you need to know, we need to have the answer, first of all, to how the program's financed. So I'll come back to this after we go into taxes. Okay, you're ready to wrap up the program, end the evening. Woohoo! Okay, all this was about not an armchair intellectual exercise. It's about to create necessary, needed changes in the program. So, formulation of alternative provisions, programs, policies, recommended program changes based on what you found in section 9 of the framework where you evaluated the program. What specific changes in this program would you recommend to better meet its objectives? For each recommended change, cite the sections or section in part 9 of this analysis that provide the reasons for this change. Do not indicate the reasons for your recommendation here. That's the next section. So all you do is, I recommend the following change. Blah, 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 blah. Where did I find this? This is based on section such and such in the analytic framework where I noted the need for this change. So perhaps when I asked the question about social stigma, you believe that's one of the main reasons why people who are eligible for this program aren't enrolled in it. So you could cite that, and you could cite that section where I said what percent of the recipient population is not enrolled in your program and why. You could cite those two sections perhaps as to a reason to what you can do to remove the stigma, for example. If you go back to the history of the National School Lunch Program, everybody in the lunch line knew who the poor kids were because they all had a special pass that indicated I'm on the National School Lunch Program. Very stigmatizing. Now my understanding is they've addressed that nobody will know who's on the National School Lunch Program when they go through the line. So they changed that because understandably that could dissuade families and kids from wanting to participate in the National School Lunch Program. But there may be other things you discovered. So here's what I'm going to be looking for. First of all, you got to have at least 3 changes here or you didn't do your homework. So I'm going to be looking for, did you cite the section of the framework that indicated the need for this change? The other thing I'm going to be looking for is if you didn't cite a recommended change here, but as I'm going through your analytic framework, clearly there should be a change recommendation because of something you said here where you were concerned about how the program's not operating the way it should. Then my question is, why didn't you recommend a change here? So there should be a tight logical fit between your analysis and your recommended changes. Everybody got it? Questions? So all you're going to do is list the change and cite the section in the framework where you indicated or found the need for that change. Here in B, you're going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of each of the recommended program changes you listed in here. So you can say, okay, recommendation number 1 from section A. What are the pros and cons of it? Well, one disadvantage is always going to be, is it politically acceptable? Politically acceptable means partly by the population, but mostly by Congress. Right now, with the situation in the Senate, the Democrats can do whatever they want in the House because they have enough of a majority that they can just do what they wish. The Senate, they have an even number of senators who are Democrat, an even number who are Republicans. And who casts the deciding vote? The vice president, who happens to be a Democrat. So technically, the Democrats control the Senate by one vote, which isn't very much. So for a lot of programs to get passed, you're going to have some of the Republicans on board. So depending on the program or the recommendation you're making, I should say, you're not going to get a lot of Republicans on board. Conservatives are not going to endorse this. So you may find that your particular program recommendation, while it's a good one, may be unacceptable to, maybe politically unacceptable to, say, the Republicans. But that's okay. That doesn't mean you shouldn't move forward with it. What are the advantages? Well, the advantages are the reason why you cited the program change, because if we did this, it would have the following benefits for the recipient population. It may even be that one of your program recommendations would save money in the long run, in which case it will not be politically unacceptable. It will be a positive. Now, there may be other disadvantages to your recommendation besides politically unacceptability, but so indicate those. So you're just trying to think ahead. Okay, if we introduce this, I can foresee it would have the following advantages, which is why I'm recommending it, but I could also see it would have the following disadvantages. It may be costly, which is always a disadvantage too. Even though Congress lavishes money pretty much on almost anything except welfare. Okay, now you've done the entire analysis. This refers back to, here we go, don't get dizzy. When we started the program, I said, what are the issues dealt with by the policy or program? I said, do not talk about the program here. We're talking about what were the social issues? What were the concerns in society at that time, to which your program was one of many possible solutions to those issues? In other words, think about it. Your programs didn't all come into existence 200 years ago. Some of those problems, if you go back to colonial times, there were poverty in all the major colonial cities, and yet there were no programs to address poverty until the 1960s. And so that's like almost 200 years later until programs were actually passed. So those concerns were there, those issues were there, but it didn't result in a program. So that's the point I'm trying to make here, which is why I said, don't talk about your program here, just talk about the issues. Okay, so we're going to return to those same issues down here at the end. And the question is, what specific policies would you advocate as a social worker to prevent the social problem or conditions or issues addressed by the program you analyzed? Why? Prevent it. Now, what some students do is they misunderstand what I'm asking here, and they start listing more program changes. Forget the program. I'm talking about how can we prevent the need for the program? How can we, so get back to those issues. What if this was the case in society? You wouldn't even need this program anymore. That's what I'm asking you. And why? Because as the old saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The programs were just a possible solution to the situation, but it would be better if we didn't even need the program. What can we do? What changes can we make in society so that you wouldn't even need this program? The need for the program would be eradicated. And that's getting you to think outside the box so that we as social workers don't always think of, I know, we'll have another program. No. Let's think about how we could alter society, change society in a way that we don't need these programs. So it's like when I was talking about capitalism and I said, you know what the solution is to capitalism? Worker-owned companies. Why? It brings democracy into the workplace. Every worker is getting the true value of his or her labor. They're all making the decisions of what to do with that value. The money isn't going to an elite who are the owners of the companies, because you're the owners, you're the elite. And then I showed you a video where that professor argues the exact same thing, the professor of economics, as to how to change capitalism. So that's how to change the system itself. That's what I'm asking for here. What policies, what could we do differently in the system to change things? Always remember this. It's always curious to me that when Dr. B does a post test, when you guys are getting ready to graduate, what always comes out low, and it's amazing to me as I'm thinking, what am I not doing well, is that the students claim they don't know enough about social and economic justice. Everything we do in the program is geared to prepare you to advocate for social and economic justice. That's what we do as professional social workers. We are the only profession in the United States whose purpose is to advocate for social and economic justice, whether it's at the individual level, the family level, the group level, or nationally. That's what we do. That is your sole charge. So all these courses, all these different tools, community organizing, research, how to work directly with people, individuals, families, groups, and these policy courses are all designed to prepare you with the skills you need to successfully, effectively advocate for social and economic justice for people. Got the picture? And I know you will, and I know you'll do it effectively because I see what our graduates do once they get out there in the working world. Hey, that's all I got. Do you have any questions on specific sections of the framework?
I just have one question overall. So there's no page requirement or number of sources that we have to have?
Nope.
Okay.
I will tell you this though, and I'm just saying this historically, sometimes students have turned in 35 pages. I'm not requiring that, but that's what they felt they needed to adequately cover the program. Some students have turned in a 15-page paper that got just as good a grade as the 30-page paper because they covered all. They kept, things succinct, and I'm not advocating for one or the other. I want you to do what you think you need to do. Some people have turned in 30-page papers where they just tried to bullshit their way around the questions. So, hey, nobody bullshits better than me, so never bullshit the bullshitter. So there is no page requirement. It's whatever you need to do to adequately answer all the questions in the framework. Now I say that because if you say, oh my God, my paper's only 20 pages, I must be doing something wrong. No, if you covered everything, you're doing everything right. If you covered all the questions adequately, answered all the little questions within the questions, if you responded to all that, that's all I'm asking for. Now, please be sure in each section of the framework to cite your source. Sometimes I've had to take papers and send them right back to the students, say, are you serious? You wrote this entire paper and didn't cite a single source in the paper? Yeah, well, I attached a reference page. That's not enough. You got to cite every source of where you got this information. Yeah. So some of this is clearly like when it comes to that equity question, that's all going to be your thinking. So there's nothing to cite. You have to just think that one through on your own. But for the rest of these, I'm asking you for facts, figures, data. So you're going to have to find sources and cite them. Other questions? Okay, I talked to our distinguished head of the library, and Stephanie is going to meet with us. Professor Gomez is going to meet with us next week. She isn't sure yet whether she's going to pre-record something or meet with us live. She's still working on that. So I'll let you know as the time gets closer. If she's going to pre-record something, then I'll let you know, because there's no point in having class. You can watch the video whenever you wish, her recording. If she's going to meet with us live, I'll let you know that too. I mean, the preference would be to meet with you live, and that's her preference too, because that way you can ask questions as she's going through it. But she'll go through the framework in her own way and show you how to find the sources for all of these questions. I don't mean literally question by question, but where you can find the sources that will help you answer the questions to the framework. So stay tuned on that. Again, we're going to be doing Zoom next week. Hopefully it'll function better than it did this week, because I will be meeting with the 4 o'clock class, and as soon as class is over, I'll be boogieing back home and get the Zoom set up in time for our class at 7. Anything else you can think of? Okay, let me stop share. One thing that occurred to me is, God, I hope this continued to record. Yeah, it was continuing to record. All right, good thing. Okay, then that's it for tonight. Do not go out driving. It's crazy out there. It's going to be. Keep yourself safe. Okay?
Maynard.
Okay.
Bye.
See you later.
Take
Bye.
care.
Stay
Bye.
safe.
Bye.